You remember when Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to take over America?
We can't allow this just to be gone, just to let it go. You can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants and allow him to become our president, because he did not win this election. It's being stolen and the evidence is there.
If I had it my way, we would have impeached him a long time ago. Actually, if I had it my way, we would have been successful in our objection on January 6th, and he wouldn't even be president. I'm getting better, though. We'll get there.
She then went on to say this, which in hindsight is pretty hilarious.
If people were committing crimes that day, I do believe that they deserve their day in court. I mean, that's just our justice system. That's how it works.
If that's really the case, Marge, then why are you so offended about this guy getting his day in court over January 6th?
Democrats and dishonest people in the media every single day accuse President Trump of waging an insurrection and accuse many of us of waging an insurrection, and you're doing nothing but lying and selling the lies of the Democrats, all for campaigns and elections. Shame on every single person that has done that. Shame on you.
Shame on me. Shame on you. Feels like a scene out of a Robert De Niro movie of some sort. First of all, those guys standing behind Marjorie Taylor Greene had to be thinking, oh my God, I don't believe I have to stand here behind this idiot watching her give a press conference. She just looks unserious. She sounds unserious. She is unserious. And the whole thing is just a total sham that these guys are trying to pull off, trying to downplay January 6th. First of all, let's go back to the day. The day of, you had a bunch of people storming the Capitol, breaking into the Capitol, and committing crimes, hitting police officers, beating police officers, threatening to hang Mike Pence. They wanted to kill Nancy Pelosi. I mean, they really wanted to commit crimes, and they committed crimes. And that day, when Donald Trump, after sitting it out for a few hours, finally made a statement, he called those people patriots. So I like to make fun of the fact that these people, the MAGA Republicans, they have interesting words for their criminals. Their terrorists become patriots. And then a little while later, they said, no, they weren't patriots. They were tourists. They were there for a nice, friendly tour, and a couple of them got a little out of hand, but the rest of them were just tourists. And yet we saw, anyone with their own eyes could see, a lot of people stormed the Capitol. They were pushing into the Capitol. They were going after cops when they say we support the blue. Apparently they don't support the blue when the blue is trying to uphold a democratically elected president in a free and fair election. And then after they got done with calling those people tourists, now they're calling them hostages, because some of those people actually had their day in court, like Marge said they should, and they were found guilty. And so they're serving the time. Do the crime, serve the time. And yet for Marge, she thinks now they should not serve the time. Whereas in that other clip we showed you, she said, if you committed something, you should have your day in court. If you committed a crime on January 6th, you should have your day in court. And then when it comes to Donald Trump, she says, oh no, he had nothing to do with it. The dude tweeted, come to the Capitol on January 6th. It's going to be wild, or whatever he said. It's going to be crazy or wild. Or he basically encouraged his followers to come there on January 6th. And then he did a speech where he said, go down to the Capitol. I'll see you there. He never showed up, but he said, I'll see you there. And in the process, he kept goading them along about Mike Pence being able to overturn the election, which is not a legal thing. Mike Pence consulted with some legal analysts that, by the way, Mike Pence was a loyalist to Donald Trump, but even he got to the point where he's like, I can't do this. And yet Donald Trump in his speech said, go down there and force Mike Pence to do this. So if that's not pushing along a little bit of a insurrection, I don't know what is. And then behind the scenes, he and some of these people, like Marge was saying, she's probably guilty, were talking about how they had conspired with fake electors to steal the election, the votes in certain states that Biden had won. So again, if this conspiracy were not real, then these cases that have been coming out in Arizona most recently, where they're saying that there was a conspiracy to steal the election, they wouldn't be coming out. It's not like every one of these states that's bringing these cases is a Democratic state. We as Americans, whether you're Republican or Democrat, have to agree that there's a certain level of truth that we have to go by. And yet Marge and her cronies, including Mike Johnson, including Clarence Thomas, who's on the court, are all trying to be election deniers and continue to say the election was stolen. Was it stolen, really? Where's the proof? They went to court in 60 cases, 60 some odd cases, including judges that were Republicans, and they all concluded that the election was not stolen. They had their own person in charge of the elections say that this was the most free and fair elections ever. There's been a few cases of fraud that were found, including a couple with Mark Meadows. Remember Mark Meadows, who was Donald Trump's chief of staff? He voted because of some kind of address issue. He ended up voting a couple times, which could be considered fraud. So the fraud that happened was very little, and some done by Republicans, but it was not enough to have overturned the election, to the point where Donald Trump picked up the phone, called the Secretary of State over there in Georgia and said, can you get me 11,000 votes, 11,000 and some odd votes. So he knew he lost, but he thought on the phone he could say, I just need 11,000 something votes, get me Georgia back. Just because you think you lost just because you think you won, I should say, doesn't mean you won. He lost. And I would be the first to admit that I don't think that people that voted for Joe Biden were just inspired by Joe Biden in the 2020 election. I think a lot of people voted against Donald Trump more than they voted for Joe Biden, in the sense that Donald Trump had mishandled the pandemic. He had done a lot of stuff that had damaged this country. And so a lot of people were sick and tired of all of his rants and ravings and all that stuff. And they came out and they tipped it over. They tipped the election over. What I meant earlier was that Joe Biden had a lot of voters, but a lot of people turned to Joe Biden that normally would have voted for Donald Trump. They turned to Joe Biden because they were sick of Donald Trump. And yet here we are with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying Donald Trump shouldn't even go to court for it. The dude was leading an insurrection. We have a lot of evidence, and we should have his day in court. He should have his day in court. And yet what he's got right now is a Supreme Court that is slow walking this case to the point where they may send it back to the courts to say, does a president have immunity? Because that's what Donald Trump's defense is arguing, that a president should have immunity for all that stuff. And therefore, his case won't go to trial before the election. And if Donald Trump wins, he can throw the whole case out. So anybody who likes democracy, doesn't want to live in a dictatorship, should be supporting at least the idea of Donald Trump going to court regarding January 6th. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, go to court, argue, let's see what's out there. I bet you there's a lot of stuff we haven't seen. There's a lot of texts and emails between Donald Trump and his supporters that will show 100% that he did lead an insurrection against the United States of America. The guy's an insurrectionist, he's a traitor, and really he should be in jail. And Marge is probably complicit. Some of these people actually were asking for pardons leading into the elections because they knew that they were going to get in trouble. So they're trying to save their own butts. That's what's happening, all right? Let's not dilly-dally, and let's not try to beat around the bush. That's what's going on. Marge is trying to save her own tail, and Marge is a real dum-dum. So please, people, make sure, if nothing else, vote for Joe Biden just so we can see the case, Donald Trump in court, so he can have his day, like Marjorie Taylor Greene said. Let him have his day in court. Let's see what happens. And if he's found innocent, then we got to live with that. But we should all support peaceful transfers of power, and we should all support the justice system, and we should all support the fact that nobody is above the law. I'm comedian Maz Jobrani. I have a comedy special on YouTube. It's called The Birds and the Bees. Watch it. If you enjoy it, tell your friends. If you don't like it, keep it to yourselves. Bye.